Shelby is here. I know you did not get a chance to hear this because you just caught the end of it. But I have to tell you, Shelby, it was a very smooth show. Very comfortable show.
Sounded good. Sounded really good.
Yeah, there's a very good thing of these guys together that is, even when they're not being funny, they're being, kind of comfortable to be with. A thing that's much tougher than people realize in radio is just making this feel like it's not fake, that these two people are talking together. There was no dead air, even when there should have been, Joe. If I'm being honest with you, I would have fucking dropped your ass off about 10 times.
It can only get better with time, folks.
I think it's going to be tough for the other guys to beat just based. And the fact is that you got over with that without doing a lot of work. Like, the weird thing is the topics that you went into, I would have liked to have heard more of. That stupid thing that you got in with the school or whatever.
Oh, Hogwarts.
The Hogwarts school. Did you know about this at all, Chris?
I've never.
So you could take a thing and they would tell you personality based?
Yep.
If I'm not in Slytherin, I quit. I'd have to be. I'd only want to be in that.
Yeah, it's underneath the lake.
Yeah.
Then I would also. Slytherin is the bad kids, right?
Yep.
I would definitely dye my hair blonde like a Nazi too if I was in that. Because that one kid always looked so fucking Nazi-like.
It's perfect.
So here's the thing for you, Shelb. It's already going to be tough for you guys. You got an uphill battle based on the fact that these two like each other. Do you and Ba like each other?
Off the air, yeah. As radio partners, maybe not, but I guess we'll have to see how it turns out.
See, that's really uncomfortable to hear. That's uncomfortable to hear.
We would have gone further depth with the topics, but we only had 15 minutes. So,
dude, you wasted so much time as it was.
Really?
Yeah, you were just your brain was crazy.
You guys didn't like that cure joke about how my uncle got melanoma, skin disease. Damn it!
I wouldn't say something. During an air check you shouldn't do a lot of melanoma jokes. That's just my own feeling there.
Shy away from those.
Yeah, like if I was a PD listening to this, I'd be like comfortable. What? What did he just say?
What? Okay, all right.
But I think if I were a PD, I'd be very impressed with that just based on the fact that there's a natural chemistry.
Thanks.
Thanks. The voting takes place up on the interrobang.com. This is my two that I trained.
Yeah.
Hicks, the two people that you trained, Classic Shelb and Mike. I'm glad they're getting into this. I hope that there's a real chance for Shelby, who I think is hysterical. I think Shelby might have done very good with Molly because having that person to set the table so you're free to do all kinds of stuff is one of the best things that you could have in a partner. It's what I have in Fez. He sets the table for me. We put that whole thing together, and what do? I come in as the silly guy. I'm just just whacking around, being a nut guy, like you do for Dave.
That's right.
Where he plays both parts, and then you tell him that you're not happy with
it. Well, sometimes he goes a little far, but I think it's all coming. We're brought it together pretty well.
I'm sorry, what?
We brought it together pretty well. Saturday. 7 p.m.
I just heard a lot of birds in there, and I didn't know where we were going.
If I can just say that, I think Shelby would still have. Well, I mean, we'll see, but I think he would still do pretty well, even with Ba.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just speaking as an objective listener. Now, those two last people, they were really funny. They were really on point, and they sounded really smart.
And also attractive.
And tall. Also.
You know, I have to say, too, before we get always, and not everybody in radio agrees with me, but I always like the he said, she said shows. Now, the problem with it, I hate them people go, here's what girls think. Well, here's what guys think. I think if you're just two people and you sound more like a couple, I think people could be very comfortable with that. I don't think there's I don't think a lot of it is done well. Some of the easy listening shows do it, but they do it in that fake thing where I think just to hang out with a couple, people would like. Now, in this case, the fact that there is still sexual attention between Shelby and Bar, I think, is going to work in a big, big way.
That's what I'm banking on with these two.
Yeah. We live in a post-gay WWE world here where it's very, very accepted now. And I think that works for you kids. All right. We need anything before we set this one up, Shelbs?
Nope, just let it roll.
All right. We're going to let it roll.
Fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for the Classic and Mike Show, New York's premier sports show since 1938. Now, here are your hosts, Classic Shelb and Mike.
Welcome to the Classic and Mike Show. Classic Shelb, how are you?
Doing great, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic today. The NFL season is right around the corner, Shelby. There's a lot of buzz around maybe the most polarizing division in football, the NFC East. Two of those teams, the Dallas Cowboys and the Giants, square off on Sunday night on NBC first week of the season. What do we expect to see from the Giants this season?
I expect the Giants to contend for the championship. I know they did not make the playoffs last year at 9-7, but they've added some key players, wide receiver. They had Lewis Murphy, a new tight end, and Brandon Myers. They did lose Ahmad Bradshaw and Osi Umenyiora. That could be a heavy blow, but Eli Manning has led them to 2 Super Bowls, so I can never count this team out, especially with that. They do have a great receiving core.
The Giants obviously have a great receiving core. Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz to name the 2 prominent stars there. And the backfield is very good. Second-year player out of Virginia Tech, David Wilson, been very explosive in training camp and was great last season for them. They will contend, of course, with the Cowboys on that Sunday night game, who come loaded as well. The receiving core, Dez Bryant, maybe the second-best receiver behind Calvin Johnson in the league. Miles Austin, if he's healthy, is always very difficult to stop. And, of course, Tony Romo at times looks like a top 10 quarterback and at times does not. The Cowboys' biggest change this offseason has been the introduction of Monty Kiffin in the Tampa 2 defense. They have shifted DeMarcus Ware from an outside pass rusher to now a defensive end. The Cowboys and the Giants are very similar because they both have ends that can get to the quarterback in Pierre-Paul and Ware, and they both have talented receivers. The question mark really will be quarterback.
Yeah, the Cowboys at quarterback, definitely, that's their biggest problem. I don't think Tony Romo will ever get it done at all. He just does not have what it takes, either mentally, plus his game is just off. He's never going to come into the clutch. He's shown that his entire career over like 6-7 seasons.
There are definitely times he struggled. I mean, last year, week 17 against the Washington Redskins, he threw a couple of atrocious interceptions. We remember the dropped fumble against the Seahawks in the playoffs. But then there are times he looks great. He's the ultimate enigma. He's the opposite of Eli Manning, who at times in the regular season does not look great, but in clutch times is fantastic.
I'd rather have the player who's just terrible during the off season but comes through when it counts. I mean, that last season, that's why you signed the player. That's why you give him the big contract, and he just blew it against the Redskins in the final game.
There's no doubt he struggled, but I'm optimistic for Tony Romo. He does a lot of things well. He moves around well. He does not run like a Robert Griffin does, but he can avoid pressure. He's accurate. He has a strong arm. If he can just get the ball to his receivers without making a huge amount of mistakes with the improved defense, the Cowboys should be fine. The Giants have some of their own challenges, though. Their offensive line is difficult, and their tight end situation, even though they brought in a couple new players, is still up in the air. Do you think that, regardless of who they have around him, Eli Manning can elevate all of his players?
Yeah, he can. He may not look like he can. I mean, just the way he plays, plus the look on his big dumb face. But he can elevate the people around him and make them play better and just make the crucial plays that you have to make. I mean, he's come through in the clutch even better than his brother has, and his brother's a future Hall of Famer.
Eli is definitely the most clutch quarterback in the family. He's much much more pressure savvy than Peyton is. The NFC also has a couple other interesting things. Robert Griffin III coming back, so the Redskins could be a difficult team to deal with. And, of course, the Eagles have had a ton of off-season turmoil. They don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. And, of course, they have the Riley Cooper issue, which is never a good thing to have for any team.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be that big of a distraction. I mean, he probably wasn't going to be that big of an impact player anyway. And, I mean, they did lose Macklin for the year. They still have Deshaun Jackson. He's one of the best, I think, underrated players. But, yeah, the whole Cooper situation got blown out of proportion anyway. I don't think it's going to affect them, really.
And if they get a full season out of Michael Vick, who looks healthy, they should be fine. When he's on his game, there are not many quarterbacks in the league that can bring a dual threat like he can. Do you feel confident with Tom Coughlin as a coach, who has a couple Super Bowl rings, but at times has not done the job as the coach for the Giants? Last season is an example.
Yeah, I think Tom Coughlin is, fine. He'd proven it with 2 Super Bowls. You got to give him the confidence to make the mistakes and then, come through in the clutch like this whole team has shown, just with the countless comeback victories. They have this great receiving core. It's, you wonder if Hakeem Nicks can come through. He's just had injuries all 4 years, hasn't even played a full season in any of his 4 years, and just had a down year last year. But with him and Cruz, they arguably one of the best receiving cores in the league. And then you mentioned David Wilson before. Week 14, he had 327 all-purpose yards with 3 touchdowns against the Giants. The Saints, rather. But so the loss of Bradshaw, will it be that big of an impact? I don't think so.
They definitely have one of the most potent offenses in football. To me, a concern would be the offensive line. They don't know exactly who's going to be at which position. There's been a lot made of their first-round draft pick, Pugh, who's the tackle at Syracuse. We don't know exactly where he's going to play. There's a lot going on there. And they always seem to make a late-season run, the Giants do. When it is looking them straight in the face, they always seem to come together and play well. We've seen that with their 2 postseason runs where they won Super Bowls, including 2 victories over the Patriots. But it will be a very interesting season in the NFC, to say the least, as we transition from the NFC East football. Shelby, you had some stuff on your mind. What do you want to kick around?
Well, first I want to get to the weather, Bob. That's what people really want to know. For our New York affiliates, we got a cool 81 degrees coming this Saturday. Finally some good weather. I know we had some rain earlier this week. We had to get out the weather jacket, get those dogs and cats in. It's gonna cool down this weekend too. We're gonna see if we can get those temperatures up. There's gonna be some light sprinkles. So you got a dog or a kid, maybe your cat. Get him outside early. It's gonna be hell on earth the afternoon. Good one, Bob. So coming up here, I've noticed a lot of sports movies. I'm a big movie buff. But, a lot of times in movies, the actors, they get a lot of stuff wrong. They're not even, sure if they've even seen the sport being played before they actually start playing, the character in the movie. Plus, the research team, they get so many things wrong. You wonder, can you at least put some effort into the actual athletic part of the movie? First of all, playing sports out of season. It's The Blind Side, that movie. They're playing football in November. All the flowers in bloom. The grass is completely green. Just a shocking green. The greenest you've ever seen a field. In the middle of November, you think you could mess that up a little bit. After all, it's a high school, after all. It's not an NFL field that's getting maintained constantly. Then unathletic actors playing, athletes. You could at least beef up a little bit. You don't just have to come straight there, put on a jersey, and then suddenly you're an athlete. You watch sports there; they're in peak physical conditions. You never see that. What are some you hate?
I definitely think that movies like Cinderella Man with the boxing scene, they got it right. It seemed to be a give and take and look more like boxing than movies like Rocky, where people get rocked in the face. They get back up. Ivan Drago, hit Rocky Balboa literally through the ropes, and he pops back up like nothing ever happened. And there are other movies like Jerry Maguire. If you see that movie, Cuba Gooding Jr., when he plays Rod Tidwell, the receiver for the Cardinals, he looks like he could be a receiver. He's obviously not, Randy Moss out there, but he stands like a receiver. He looks kind of Wes Welker-ish in terms of his body stature. It could happen, whereas there are other movies where it's not even close.
Like another one, Tom Cruise in All the Right Moves in the 80s. This guy has never seen a football game being played. He's a cornerback in the movie. You haven't seen it. And, if you're a cornerback or a wide receiver, you're lining up to begin the play. You're relaxed. You're loose. Tom Cruise gets into like a karate stance. Like he's just ready to fight the guy. Watch some game tape, Tom, before you line up. Earlier in the movie, you don't play the ball in football. You play the man. That's what I've always heard. And then he plays the ball after his coach, tells him not to. He gets in trouble for it and then storms off angrily. It's one of the worst, accurate sports movies I've ever seen. It's pretty unwatchable these days.
It reminds me of Any Given Sunday. There's that scene with the trainer, who alters and doctors the medical report.
Right.
I can't imagine a trainer is really going to put his entire practice on the line just so a linebacker can get a bonus. That never seemed to make much sense to me. I never understood it. Plus, I had a real hard time picturing Dennis Quaid jumping and flipping helicopter style like John Elway in the end zone. I never kind of saw that.
Right.
It just didn't seem to fit.
They're always practicing on the same field as the cheerleaders too. You don't have a separate area for them. When do you ever see that? The coach would be like, "Can you get these girls out of here? We're trying to practice on a football field here."
It's like in The Replacements. You ever see that movie?
Right.
They have the cheerleaders all over the field. Then they have that scene where Keanu Reeves is getting game intel, right, from the cheerleader. I can't imagine a head coach does not have game intel on other players. It just doesn't seem to make sense that a cheerleader is going to be the one that carries the burden of getting information to the quarterback.
Another is play-by-play announcers being heard over the PA in the whole stadium. You'd think a quarterback wants to hear himself being critiqued while he's playing. That would never happen.
There's nothing better than when you're actually dropping back to pass. You hear the echo of a stadium terrible sound system saying Shelby drops back to pass. There's nothing better that gets the blood rolling there.
Mike, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
I guess my favorite sports movie of all time, probably, even though I just bashed it, is probably Rocky IV, because I don't think there's anything better than watching him beat Ivan Drago. I really like that scene when he's hitting him like a piece of iron. That makes my day, because I love the fact that they build Ivan Drago up for this guy who's unbeatable, right? He kills Apollo Creed, and it can't get any more tough or any more difficult. And then Rocky, gets the snot knocked out of him, and then he gets up and beats him down. That would never, ever happen.
For me, it has to be the 1997 Academy Award-winning film Air Bud. I had to watch this every time it's on TV, but so many unanswered questions. Did they have to kick a player off the team just to make room for the golden retriever? I'd love to hear that conversation go down. Okay, Timmy, you've put in a lot of effort. I know your mom. I've seen her talk to her when she dropped me off at practice. But Zach over here, his dog is amazing. He can hit basketballs off his nose. If you want to come watch the practice, maybe someone will twist an ankle. I could give you some playing and practice time. But we're gonna have to give this canine a shot.
Plus, I never figured out, how did the dog dribble without getting the ball stolen from him, right? Was he going to bounce off his face with the paw? It'd be very difficult.
And he's 2 feet tall. You can't. It's not like he's doing any crossover moves. You can't really defend that. I just want to know how this movie was even pitched. Okay, we got a dog playing basketball in a scene. No. This is the whole movie. That's what they're going to go with, a whole movie of a basketball playing dog. It's a risk, but it certainly worked. Another thing about Air Bud, going back to that, was he attending classes? You had to get a certain GPA to play. I mean, they're just going to write he's a dog on the grade point average. I mean, what did he get? He's not getting a 70 in math. I'm pretty sure that's what you got to get on.
That would be exceptionally difficult for him to do multiplication and division, let alone use a graphing calculator in his class. It's almost like the NCAA should have been investigating him instead of Johnny Manziel.
I mean, I would have thrown a tennis ball onto the court, possibly some squirrels. That would distract them right there. Game over. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I would have maybe even thrown a jersey onto a vacuum cleaner, rolled that out, see how that works out.
If I was the opposing coach, I don't know why he didn't just bring it back Shreets, right? Come on here, Air Bud, when you make him sit as... If he's like the goalie, you can make him sit. If he's the receiver, you could like distract him so he doesn't catch it. Besides, I never understood how he jumps 10 feet over a cornerback to catch the ball in the Air Bud football movie.
Yeah, they've made several. I had to tap out with the MMA one. That one it kind of offended me. I mean, you're seeing a dog being pulverized like that. That's all the time we have here on the Classic and Mike show. Mike, it's been fun.
It's been real.
It's been the best 15 minutes of your life. We've laughed, we've cried, we've shared some tender moments, but that's all the time we have here today.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on Twitter.
That is at Classic Shelb.
Or at Fifth Down Mike.
That's all the time we have. It has been fun on the Classic and Mike show.
Good night, everybody.
Touching me, touching you.
Well, it's not night, but it is the afternoon. All right, I'll ask you guys, what did you think of what they had going on?
I thought it was funny. Well, it was. It was good. It was good. It was good. I mean, it was a lot. Yeah, very fact based. Very. I'm not going to say scripted, but all the points were laid out very clearly. But then once they got into the rhythm and once Shelby took the reins, it was fun.
So for you were more comfortable with Shelby.
Yeah. Well, no, Mike was good. Don't get me wrong. He made some good points. Very good, but I lost interest.
What did you think, Hicks?
I thought that they had to build up some steam, but I thought the movie talk was strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Here's the opening with the sports coming up things seemed a little forced for both of them. The movie stuff got some, actually got some of the biggest jokes of the entire two shows. There was some really funny stuff in there. What didn't work though is it felt like one guy talks, then it's the other guy's turn to talk. One guy talks, the other guy's turn to talk. There was more of a feeling in the first place that you were each reading, and in the second part of it, you were just waiting for the other guy to shut up so that you can then do yours. I didn't get the feeling that you guys were listening and being together, Didn't seem like a conversation.
When you don't have, any chemistry, it can't come off like that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the always thing that worked, that here are two people or even three people who are on a long car trip or are out at a bar, and you just happen to overhear this conversation of people who you either have to want to be together or two people who dislike each other enough to try to cut each other off and burn each other down, where you feel like, oh, I'm listening to a very kind of a cool argument. But you guys didn't go in either direction. You were both very kind to each other. You didn't step on each other. But at the same time, you also didn't really support each other.
I think not going with Molly ended up being a mistake.
I never thought I would hear those words.
No, I am very surprised by that, too. Yeah, because I thought from the beginning this year that you guys would have been good together. But I offered you Molly first, and you're like, no. And wouldn't you have loved to have heard Joe with Bach to see how that would...
The weirdness, that would have happened.
It's not too late. It can still happen. He's still here.
We could maybe flip the partners and do this again next week. Who knows? Who knows? But now the pressure's really going to be on you, Shelbs.
Right.
I thought Shelb had some really funny material, and I only wish that Bob would have heard it. I really think that if he would have heard some of this stuff, he wouldn't have been, kind of stepping on it with his own thoughts about it. And also his thing of, this is the dumbest movie. What's your favorite movie? That one that I said.
But also when Shelby asked him what were some scenes that you disliked, he just then said scenes he did like.
Yeah.
That was a weird.
It's not listening. That's all.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I think Bob has a great voice, and he really has that sports thing, that sports sounding voice. But the way you guys opened, I'm not sure either one of you felt too comfortable with that, did you?
When you're reading off a piece of paper, it can kind of sound forced. I don't understand people listen to sports talk, to be honest with you.
Well, there's some that's really good because you find people who sit around and they will talk and because they're both actually interested in this one thing and talk about it. But when you're reading facts to people, it's very rarely interesting. It takes us all back to being in school. What you really want to do is feel like you're part of a conversation with them. I don't know how the voting's going to go in this. I really don't know. I know how I bet, but I really don't know.
Anything can happen. It's the internet.
I just hope Bob will finally, get picked up as like a cornerback for the Eagles, and then he can retire into ESPN.
Well, that is the
just
thing.
Be kind of like a pointless meathead, but which isn't Bob. I'm not saying that is.
Bob reminds me of a guy
that's accurate.
who you could actually put him with an athlete, and you know what I mean? Like he would be that guy that works with the athlete, kind of setting the table. What was it like when you found yourself trailing with 2 minutes left? He seems very comfortable in that kind of thing, and he's a very comfortable guy. I just don't know whether he was comfortable with you. You know what I mean? Like I think both you guys could work better with other people.
Not a lot of people are comfortable.
I know, but that can also work for you as well. Like being strange, like I was saying, I think you have an incredibly unique personality too. And the funny thing about you is, the best thing that you do is prick the person that you're with, and that's to me one of the funniest things. Like I said, I've always liked the he and she thing. Another thing that I've always loved is the big dog, little dog. You know what I mean? Where the little dog really has to snap at the big dog's fucking heels until finally he gets slapped back again. That piece, is to me always great radio, but you need that other person to be really big, strong, enough for you to take shots at. I'm not even sure if I would have heard you taking shots, because I think you were each doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Neither one of you is bad. Both of you have a great way about you. I don't know if it's together. I wonder how you would do with Chris Stanley. Because Chris Stanley, I was thinking of you during that conversation.
Oh, yeah?
You that's the kind of dumb conversations that you like to be in.
Dumb? No. I like to be in all sorts of conversations.
Where I think, who would be perfect with Ba is Fez. I think those two guys would be in there reading the coming games and find a rhythm with each other. I don't think you'd like the reading what's coming up at all.
No, not really. I don't. It's like you're saying like who's gonna win or something, but you could just do that with your friends. I don't understand why you'd really.
Yeah, you're really getting a lot of facts that you don't need to know. When you say "of course" before anything else, that line should be thrown out. Like, and of course Manning will be quarterbacking. Well, then don't say it if it's of course. Let's just fucking get rid of it.
I would cut off that sports talk and just send it to like Guantanamo Bay. Just maybe they could get some.
See, that's the shit that you do well. That's the mean kind of cruel thing that you do well.